Just the emotion that went into that, with all of JD's stuff, his physical and emotional stuff that went into that whole process, but you got like another, I believe it was 6 months with him, right?
11.
11 months.
Yeah, yeah, that was really crazy. It's also given me a lot of insight because since I learned about the canine cancer hemangiosarcoma, and since JD was diagnosed, I now know 9 dogs that have passed from it. Neighbors, friends, previous foster dogs. 9. And that just feels like too much. And the thing is that each one of those dogs they got diagnosed and within 30 days they were dead because they didn't do the clinical trial or they didn't go through the surgery. So how hemangiosarcoma attacks is on the spleen usually is where it will appear as like a blood tumor, and then it gets so big that it ruptures. Your dog will be laying flat on the floor panting and cold because they're bleeding out internally. So you take them to the vet and they'll do an ultrasound and they will confirm, yep, your dog has a tumor in the spleen or possibly the liver, the lungs, or the heart, but usually the spleen, and it's ruptured and your dog's bleeding out internally. You have to do surgery to remove the spleen. But then you're going to be told, however, there's a 50-50 chance that the spleen tumor could be benign and we can remove the spleen and the tumor, stitch your dog up, and he'll have a nice, happy life for however many more years is good for him. Or there's a 50% chance that it's this terribly aggressive cancer that within 30 days will attack another organ. You'll get the same blood clot thing and it will explode and your dog will bleed out again. And then you really will have to put him to sleep because at that point it will probably be on the heart or the lung or the liver. What are you supposed to do? By the way, price tag for an emergency splenectomy, $7,000 to $15,000. What are you supposed to do? You put your dog to sleep is usually what people do because who has that, right? So again, I found myself in this extremely fortunate position because of dogs in employment that when we took our dog into the emergency veterinary clinic, because of my partnership with Ethos Veterinary Health, I was able to get JD1 into a clinical trial, Ethos Push, which is a clinical trial that's studying experimental drugs to fight against hemangiosarcoma returning, with also intravenous doxorubicin, just general chemotherapy treatment. And that all of that would be covered under the clinical trial, so no cost to me as the pet owner. My dog was also insured through the ASPCA pet insurance, and so they covered 80% of the bill up to our cap. So that was extremely helpful. And then I also got some support from the veterinary office itself, which ultimately ended up making the surgery affordable for our family to be able to go through. So we chose to do the surgery on JD and enroll him in the clinical trial. So throughout the next 11 months, JD went through chemotherapy. He had to take daily chemotherapy drugs. But he was still himself. Once he recovered from his surgery, like you wouldn't believe it. Like he wasn't ready to go. And so it felt so good that we were able to like give him that extra time. And it really did bring us together as a family. And in fact, one of the hardest parts that we had to do as a family with him was I had planned a month-long trip to France for my family in May before JD had gotten diagnosed. And so I wanted to like cancel this trip. And because I didn't know how much time I had left with my dog, it was literally like every single day could be his last, because if that tumor came back and it ruptured, we would know because he was getting like monthly ultrasounds, but it would still happen. And so here we are going on this trip, and I was so lucky. I used a service called Trusted House Sitters, which is actually a new partnership with Dogs on Deployment. At the time, we did not have a partnership. So this, again, another synchronicity, right? Here's trusted house sitters. What they do is kind of similar to dogs in employment in a sense where we were out of town, so our house was available and our pets were here. So we had somebody come to our house and stay in our house to watch our pets while we were on vacation. And it ended up being, we had this couple come stay with us or stay at our house. They cared for JD. She was a Marine stationed at Camp Pendleton, and her girlfriend was from France. And she was a photographer. So while we were gone, she just did all these beautiful photos and videos of JD that like are now my memorial keepsakes of him. You know, I wasn't there, but like I have this now of him. And we came back and we had him for another 2 months. And then of all things, he died of old age. Like his kidneys just, they started to go, you know, and he started acting like any other old age dog. And, you know, we knew it was time. And on his last night, he got up off the ground and he could barely walk, and he walked into each of the girls' rooms and he just kind of like sniffed them, their bed and stuff, and then walked out. And I laid on the floor with him that night, and I was like, in the morning, it was the day. So I called the vet to come. I had like it all set up, you know, with his favorite blanket, and the girls bought me flowers, and, you know, we had like just stuff that he liked around. And I kid you not, we gave him a sedative to calm him. Not that he was moving anyway. I had him wrapped up in my arms, and right before she came to inject him, she went to check his heartbeat, and he passed. I felt it. I felt him pass. Like it was this weird, like electromagnetic static that just went through my whole body. And she didn't say anything. I just knew. I just knew. And then she goes, he's gone. And I felt so at peace, you know, like it was everything you could have wanted for something that was like so important to my life, and being like a part of this whole story. And all the time that I was in the Marine Corps, and it was just me and my dog. We used to like go hiking together, and I had to like run 3-mile runs for the Marine Corps, you know, and you had to have them timed. And he was always my running buddy when I would be training. And I go to the beach with him and just go study with my flight books. Like when I was upset, like that dog just, he was so fuzzy, you know, you just put your face in him and cry, wipe your tears on him. He was the worst dog ever. But so yeah, when he passed, I was like, how do you tell the story of a dog? You know, because obviously we all love our pets, but how many times do we go to work after we've lost a dog and we just show up, which I did, you know? I remember having work calls dinging in the background as my dog is dying. We don't value the death of a dog. So how can we create art that really resonates? And that's where I think Our Kind of Love came from, because the way that I wrote the song and the words that I used, it could be a song about my husband and I and our long distance and long-term relationship and the marriage and the struggles that we've been through. It could be, but it's really about me and my dog.